Breaking news. They're coming for the kids. We're coming for them! Sisters broken badges flashing in the night. Knock down doors, no warrant, no right. Take the children, tear the families apart. Hide behind protection while you rip out the heart. File fabricated, lies on the stand. Judges in their pocket, money changing hands. Parents screaming, cameras never show. The real abuse happens when the CPS shows. Scott ever standing, fighting Tennessee DCS. For separation, they tore the family from his chest. Placed on a registry, no charges, no crime. Blount County DCS crossing every line. Evers versus the state, lawsuit in federal court. Exposing the corruption, tearing that system apart. Years of battle, justice delayed, but not denied. A father's resolve with truth on his side. No mercy, no justice, just power unchecked. We expose the corruption, put them under the rack. Got it for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every day. Truth cuts like a blade. Got it for CPS. Your empire's gonna fail. We fight for the families. We fight for the free. CPS. Your time is over. You'll see. Another case buried, another life destroyed. Numbers manipulated, stories over deployed. They call it protection, we call it abduction. State-sponsored kidnapping, legal corruption. Parents labeled unfit for daring to speak. Question the system and they label you weak. We document every raid, every lie, every theft. The resistance is growing, no more silent regret. No mercy, no justice, just power unchecked. We expose the corruption, put them under the rack. Got it for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every day. Truth cuts like a blade. Got it for CPS. Your empire's gonna fade. We fight for the families. We fight for the free. CPS. Your time is over. You'll see. You took the innocent. You destroyed the home. Now the people are waking. And we're coming for your throne. No more silence. No more fear. The revolution starts right here. Got it for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every single day. Got it for CPS. Your kingdom's gonna break for every parent, for every child set free. CPS, we're gunning for thee. This is the podcast, Gunning for CPS, hosted by Scott Evers. Relentless in his fight, Evers versus Tennessee DCS. A father who refuses to yield, exposing every injustice, demanding accountability, reclaiming what was taken. The battle continues. Stay vigilant. The truth is our weapon.
I'm gonna pull the whole thing down. I'm gonna bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's gotta be biblical.
Well, who are we going to piss off today? Hi guys, it's Gunner, your host for Gunning for CPS. Yeah, we've made a few studio changes. People have sent stuff, and I got this pretty neat thing that says, Captain America says, I can do this all day. Yes, I can when it comes to constitutional stuff, and I love it. Let's see, Michael. For something for the show, we have the website should be up. CPS Breaking News. I'm part of the CPS Breaking News Network. So you go through there, and there's a website there, and there's a place on there that says "Be a guest" on one of our shows, and you click on that, and they'll walk you through. The producer and everything else that goes through and does a majority of these shows. I do a lot of my stuff, a lot of self-producing, unless I've got a lot of stuff where I'm collaborating. I do bring in other resources, but it's a pretty smooth show for what we have. And I'm going to recommend, there's a couple things. Now, we showed you last week that, listen, this is on, and this is not advertising for anything else. This is for your library, for you to understand, especially if you're going into federal court, is get you a copy of this, the Federalist Papers. Okay. This tells you, this book is a legal document that you can use in court, especially federal court, when you're having your arguments that say, and you have to understand the Constitution of why it says what it says, to where you don't have to reason. It's already been done, because this is what SCOTUS does, is they go back and they look at the Federalist Papers. There's a lot that goes into that to say, are we right within the Constitution and within its the theme of it, the spirit of the Constitution? This explains the reasoning of why some of those things are there too. You understand why these were put into the Constitution. I mean, that's literally what it is, and what it covers and what it doesn't. And you got to remember, this is coming right out of, the Declaration of Independence, winning the war, winning the freedom. It's like, okay, well, what do we do now? Well, understanding the Constitution we're referring to was not the first Constitution. Believe it or not, it was called the Confederate States of America. So the whole thing with the whole, no, it's nothing to do with races. It's just the older flag. Well, they adopted it, is what it comes down to, because we only had 13 colonies, and then it grew from there, which divided into states and everything else, and how they would draw those lines. All that reasoning is there. Okay, well, we'll get to that here in a second. Remind me here in a second. Let me get you some updates on here, so you guys let's just keep on our frame of mind here. We'll have some time to go through that. So remember that, Michael, about that stipulation of like what it takes to get a judge to recuse themselves and this and that. And I'm going to tell you, well, we'll deal with it tonight. Basically, you have several options. If you feel something the lower court is not doing at any time, you don't have to wait till court's over. You can write a mandamus, a writ of certiorari, several different other writs or combined ones, depends on your situation. You look into those and you file that with the appellate court. You have to notify the lower court, hey, I'm sending this up, which means everything has to stop. We have to get this answered, or the higher court can look at what's going on of saying, listen, they're not getting due process. They're not doing this. They're not following their policies and procedures. The judge has got an ethics problem. I feel coerced or intimidated. This is, once again, this is supposed to be a service that's voluntary, and there's no crime been committed. So there's no reason to force services down somebody's things. There's no crime. Even though CPS wants to try and convince you, which is a bunch of bullshit, because it's not a criminal court. Which is why, once again, this whole registry shit that they have is illegal and unconstitutional. And yeah, they're going to have some issues with that. So, Wayne County DCS. The book in the chat box, yeah, I can get that in here. It's not really a book. It's actually one of our originating documents. And this is what the Supreme Court uses, and it's called the Federalist Papers. See, this is where I'd have somebody in the background. Hey, type that on the screen. I don't have that. But, small show, and forget everything else. There you go. Now, the other thing I'm going to recommend to you guys, that, once again, you can get that on Amazon, any place you get books, this and that. This is a very, very available, and this one's in a little bit larger print. Because once again, I haven't got my reading glasses yet, because it's getting to that age of it's time for some reading glasses possibly, and trouble with this. But I can see plenty of things far away without a problem. But here's the other thing I want you guys to look into. And listen, these come in, I believe it's a 6-pack, is the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. You can go with whatever printer you want to. This one is the Cato Institute. And I'm not promoting, I'm just saying this is what I bought. This is what I chose for myself. You do you. You do you. This comes in a 6-pack. I bought it in a 6-pack. Matter of fact, I got 3 of them. Because the concept is when you have that conversation with saying, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, you just pull it out and go, right, I got it right here. Here, read. You don't know it. Let's learn together. Make it a teaching incident, especially with a lot of them, which is where, with a lot of you guys are wondering, what's up with this constitutional question? Well, that's the basis of the show tonight. Well, the constitutional question basically asked that basically family court hearing CPS cases is illegal and unconstitutional and has been for over 3 decades. And what it's basically saying is they don't have jurisdiction to even hear the case. Why? CPS is a state entity. Okay, Gunner, what's that got to do with anything? Well, if you look at past episodes, we're doing a little recap and I'm going to condense it. According to the 10th Amendment, which gives the powers to the states, says that they will be delegated all powers that are not given to them under the Constitution or specifically reserved or given to the federal government. Okay, that's very specific. That's where you can't claim you have powers because the Constitution never gave you those powers, is the argument, which they didn't. Then you go to Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2. And what it says, and this is on the federal court having original jurisdiction. Now, if you go down through there, you see what little they have control over. In other words, you don't go to a state court or this or this, that. In other words, this is boom, you're right in federal court. There are extenuating circumstances for things like that, which, the biggest thing is having the Court of Appeals to go even higher after you extend some of your state stuff, that then you can bump it up to the Court of Appeals to look at, because it's not a new case. But you have to bring up the federal matters of it. You know what I'm saying? Saying, hey, this isn't constitutional. You can take the long way. And this is where I'm telling you guys a lot of this stuff here. For example, it was me. Had I had known different, I would have stopped my stuff immediately. I would have challenged jurisdiction and go, well, now we're going to have to stop and have a constitutional question, because as we go forward, you're not legal, nor are you lawful or constitutional. Matter of fact, the fact that you've created this system is a criminal act, and you've been stealing kids this way because you were never given the power to hear these cases. Why? Under Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, those things that has original jurisdiction, in other words, it has to start in the federal court system, is all cases that have to do with ambassadors, state versus state, country, outside countries, this and that. There's also, in other words, to have a fair trial. Listen what I'm saying. To have an impartial trial and a fair trial, because if you're going to have it in one state versus another state, there's too much bias. So you can't hear those cases. Those have to go to the federal court. The other part that's in there that I left out, and I left out for a reason because we're going to spotlight it, it says all cases where the state is a party. What does that mean, Gunner? Is not CPS in your state. That's a generic term, CPS. I know some of it call it the cabinet or this or this or that. It's all the same thing. Okay. They bring a case onto their state office, hire attorneys for just that office to prosecute you that are not even part of the DA's office. They are an attorney that is hired just to do their cases. How did they not know this? Sorry, this little bouncy. I've had a rough day, a rough week. It rained a lot where I was here, so I've had a lot of trouble breathing. So if you forgive me if I cough, sometimes I get a tickle or something. That's the congestive heart failure. And like I said, I don't do good with, humidity. It tends to bug me. But it's doing so good so far. But you never know. The things you got to deal with when you're sick. Disabled. Truly. And if you don't know what that is and your first time here, yes, I have congestive heart failure with less than 10% of my heart. I do have a pacemaker defibrillator that's put in there. I've had several heart attacks back to back before I got this one. I believe my daughter counted up to 5, and she's a nurse. So before they did this, and then I've just had to lay low and heal and some of the things while I've worked on this. But that's a little bit of my backstory of the, well, why do you keep doing this for the show? Why? Because this is the reason this show is here. Our founding fathers said something very explicit. It says, for this experiment known as the constitutional republic to work depends solely upon the informed citizen. In other words, actually knowing your rights, how they apply, this is where, this isn't right, where to go, all that other, you're supposed to understand this. But because we have been penetrated by a shadow government and people that we're dealing with, and you can look at the history books, socialism, communism, and they were out there as actual parties. How can you even have these parties is the issue, because it's not even constitutional. Matter of fact, it's a threat. It's a declaration of war. And that's what I don't get. Hey, you can have your own beliefs. That's not a belief in a religion. That's a political alliance. And we get our political alliance or our frame of mind of who we are as Americans from the Declaration of Independence. So to have somebody here, that's why we have people, hey, go through the program, this and that, and you have to swear allegiance to this country. But we've got too many people in here, even that grew up around here, that they've not been taught right, because it's been a political game. And what they ended up doing was making you and I, ignorant of a lot of things or this process till we get caught up in this bullshit with CPS and these illegal court systems. And then all of a sudden we're forced because we're backed into a corner. And a lot of people, they can't get past the fact my kids are gone. It breaks a lot of women. They target this for a reason. They're causing mass trauma. But the reason they're doing the mass trauma is because if you look at the cycle of the kids that go through the system or taken by the system, and then they're feeding the jails. Because, they got to have criminals to make money in a jail. They're privately owned. Some of them are, publicly owned, but a majority of them are privately owned. It's for profit. We need to wake up. This is why we're saying we need to go back to the Constitution. We've got cases that are hearing stuff. It's amazing they hear this. And when this comes down, imagine the criminal side when they turn around and go, wait a minute, what? Like an example, somebody shoots an officer. That state can't hear that case. Why? He was a member of the state. Per this over here. What do you mean? You can't do a criminal conviction. You got to go to federal court. Why? It's the state versus them is what it's got. That's going to apply to a lot of things that people go, oh shit, that means anything for any state agency that we've ever heard internally involving the public. Catch that? The public. When they interact with you and me, it's a complete different story. Why? Because we are the sovereign. Now you're going to say, oh, there's that sovereign thing he's going to no, Neil Gorsuch, a sitting member of SCOTUS, said this. You see how all that negative energy out there and all this stuff's been hitting social media and all how they slam these people that, where I'm sorry, they don't understand it. And they try to exercise it, and they exercise it a lot of times, in my opinion, the wrong way. And a lot of it has to do with presentation and articulation. Once again, they're programmed with a code. They don't understand it unless you start speaking their code, and then all of a sudden, oh, now we're communicating. Yeah, what you're doing is illegal. Well, this code, that code violates the Constitution, and here's case law to say that's bullshit. But you don't, once again, it's like, wait a minute, well, it's still a statute and code. No, I'm informing you it's unconstitutional. Your due diligence as a law enforcement is to look it up and make a decision in the field to proceed. That's called a proper investigation to make sure what you're doing is not of his opinion or somebody else's opinion. The first thing they're supposed to do is look at it through a constitutional lens. Does this violate the Constitution? You're talking a whole section of statute, code, policy, and procedure in every state that if they never had jurisdiction, that means your state, even legislators, Tried to make this a code or statute when they don't even have jurisdiction over it. So the state's complicit. Your states are complicit in this. That's what this filing exposes. Cause and effect. What does that mean? If they never had jurisdiction, it's void ab initio. It's void from the beginning. The ruling doesn't exist. I don't have to go through anything else. The Supreme Court's ruled all those cases that you've heard this and that, which means your ruling to take my kid is null and void. Well, they've been TPR, they've been adopted. I don't give a shit. Void from the beginning. That's what void ab initio means. And that's why it comes down through it. And that's where, like I said, that's where we're pressing. That's why they hate the hell out of us. Not just my personal case. It's the fact that, hey, I know I can file constitutional questions and I have a good way of doing it and doing a brief and having an argument and making it really good and foolproof and using common sense, because the way SCOTUS says to interpret the Constitution, the official way, the legal way, is it says what it means and means what it says. So those of you that have open cases, you are more than free to turn around and go, hey, Your Honor, I need to challenge jurisdiction. Under what? Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 in the 10th Amendment. That power was never delegated to you. Are they a state party? Ask them that, obviously, first, if you wish. That's the way I would have done it. I would say, hey, Your Honor, does this court recognize that that is a state party? That is a member of the state. And of course, they'll be arrogant, turn around and, well, hell yeah, you know they are. Well, Your Honor, you don't have jurisdiction over this case. Why? Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 of the Constitution and the 10th Amendment. 10th Amendment says those powers not delegated to the federal. Article 3 gives original jurisdiction of cases like this where the state's a party. You're getting ready to commit a crime and you've probably already committed a bunch. So feel comfortable to do it, because all state attorney generals are aware of the case. 100%. They had to notify everybody because I had to file the constitutional question, which is protocol, with the state that everything affects or how you had your discovery. Then it goes to the U.S. Attorney's Office. The U.S. Attorney's Office has to do that ruling of what was constitutional or not, and how it was written and everything else, including our brief, and how he decided with it and made his decision. They'll look at the whole thing, and then it goes to the DOJ. Here you go. We have a constitutional ruling. They have to do that. I believe that's in their administrative duties, because what we were researching too, those constitutional questions do get answered before anything moves forward. So yes, we're going to have some answers. And if we come along the way, hey, we got to stop. I got another constitutional question. Because what we're revealing as far as a whistleblower is the fact is we're saying all this is connected. And yes, we've had some movement in the case. We've had, a response from the court. It kind of shaved a few things down. Yeah, we got a little hurry. We, once again, understanding the process, we put our subpoenas on there and this, that, but some of that was to show the judge we ain't playing. Once again, that's strategy. Some of it screw up, but maybe it was an intended screw up. Yeah, and you can call. You're right, Jam's birth mother. I think I'm breaking down your name right. You are correct. You can call for jurisdiction at any time. I've become aware that this is not there. The Tennessee Constitution versus the federal Constitution. Well, let's make that quick distinction real so you guys understand that. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land. In other words, nothing can contradict it. Otherwise, it even says it's null and void. In other words, it can't exist. So even if states are enacting things or doing things, the idea is they're playing catch me if you can, rather than doing the preventative, which is what we've been seeing out of federal, as they're doing stuff with Congress, jacking everything up instead of coming together with this stuff and doing their damn job. We're too busy fussing and fighting for, once again, and all this power, rather than, hey, can we just be constitutional? And I'm going to give this, listen, I'm going to give a shout out, and I don't know her. I forgot her name. I believe she's a sitting either House of Representative or Senator. And you guys in the audience can help me with this if you know. But she goes in when they have these sessions, that she goes in and says, hold on, wait a minute, I need my time. We can't do that. We can't add that to the bill. We can't do that. And she is the voice of reason and constitutionality. In that whole selection, one voice. Now, some of them have stood up and said a few things before, but nobody's come down like she has to where she stops them mid-session up. We can't go any further. That's not legal. We can't even talk about this. It's off the books. And that's what's driving them nuts on one side of the aisle like crazy. And they go, well, this is how they're taking things over. No, they're using the Constitution for the first time, and they've got a voice on the floor and in the committees she serves on. That's the way all of your senators should be, and House of Representatives in federal court. Hey, I know the Constitution, but half of them don't because they're caught up in this bill and what we're funding here or this. This is like an accounting thing. I get part of it, but the meat and potatoes of the nation is supposed to be the things with we the people and to protect us, but not infringe on our freedoms. And they could have done away with it. And here's the thing that they've been so light on that they need to hammer down on the same way. And I'm going to compare it. Yes, the Second Amendment. If they said shall not be infringed and the Supreme Court comes out, we're not going to say this and we're tired of splitting fucking hairs. Shall not be infringed. In other words, if there's a weapon, we've already limited you on this or that, which there's ways to get in automatics with your FFL Class 3. If you guys know what that is, if guys that are into that, you can research that. There's certain things you do, but other than that, it shall not be infringed. This has got to stop. This right into a privilege of license. This has been going on, especially with a lot of the people that say the sovereigns say, you can't turn it right into a privilege and charge me this and that. Well, guess what? The federal court's agreeing with them. It's bullshit. It's wrong. And now they've been caught at the short and curlies because and we've done this on this show before, but you guys realize that a majority of your state's budget, money they get or plan on when they do their budgets, are Title IV reimbursements. We've showed you the numbers from all the states. Played the video for it that somebody did a great illustration research. Yeah, those numbers are pretty accurate. And yeah, Darren, I see you back there. It's been a money sham game for people that don't want to work. Because if you were truly a lawyer, if you were truly a judge or a magistrate, the first thing that you've got to understand that we have got to get back to in this country is understanding what a damn oath is. It's not a political game when you take that oath and you swear to uphold the Constitution. Hell, for judges and courts, you're supposed to run to its aid when you see it stressed, a defender of it. But it's not. And they've been making money hand over fist and then trafficking our children. There's been no criminal act. What the hell was this? They come in with this and that. They didn't do this. Now, I told you too that it's also against the law for them to question children at schools. It's actually, now the schools are complicit because what? They're a co-collaborator. The teachers are in trouble. The school system's in trouble. You've got to open yourself up to litigation. Why? Well, the state said they can do it. The Constitution says it can't. Those children have constitutional rights too, including a right to an attorney when they're questioned. Maybe you ought to make a phone call to the DOJ because they'll straighten you out right away on children or what they have labeled juveniles in their paperwork. So if the DOJ recognizes these children have these constitutional rights, and rights can only be given, never taken away, if the federal government and the federal court system, the highest court in the land, recognizes these things, then you better walk the damn line. All your forensic interviews thrown out. Where was the civil rights attorney, independent civil rights attorney, to protect that child's rights when they were questioned? Oh, well, we're not. Well, you can't play at both games because you question a child. It doesn't matter if you're law enforcement or not. Your government. Teachers, who pays your salary? The county, The county is local government under the power of the state. You are part of the state government. Yeah, this is getting big, guys. You see how far up the chain of all this corruption that they've had their hands in for years? Now you go through all this other stuff and you go to the cause that let's roll the thing. Who else was in the courtroom with you guys? I'll bet you anything there was a bailiff that was either a sheriff or a city cop. That means your department is complicit. And they benefited it from it. Why? Every case that they sent in there or they assisted CPS with, which getting together with people in your area, man, that's where you get the evidence. Hey, I know you had a CPS case. I know you guys talk locally. Start getting together on this stuff and work together. You could do your individual cases. It don't have to be class action, but you help each other out with your testimony. Sworn affidavits, very specific, not your whole case, just what benefits that person's case to make their point. Your point, and this is why I tell you guys about these affidavits that we're looking for, affidavits of truth, that they're about the Fourth Amendment. Hey, they came into my house with no warrant multiple times. Did you go to court with them? Yes, I went to court. So that's, a violation of Article 3, Section 2. They never had jurisdiction. They're filing in the wrong court. And then there are these judges and magistrates who are making orders. Because once again, the state weaponized them. The federal court never gave them that much power. They never had it. And it's one little sentence, real fast. And that's why I tell you guys, when you read the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence or the Federalist Papers, take your time, read it line by line. Because if you read too fast, one little sentence makes a tremendous thing that could go on, like all cases where the state's a party, the federal court has original jurisdiction, and they only have original jurisdiction over this much, certain things. That's why there's just what there are and not one in every county. You following? The problem is they've been doing something so illegal because they got away with it and nobody was paying attention because this was all under the guise of we're here to help the children, or it's for in the best interest of the child. Well, isn't the best interest of the child their constitutional rights? And you started this out with questioning them or with a teacher or this and that. Children are impressionable. They always have been. No, that ain't really. You know how many girls I knew when my kids were growing up, from 10 years, to about 10, 11, somewhere around there. Some it goes a little bit further. But and back when they're younger, man, they got some crazy ass dreams. Some of them hold on to unicorns and some of these other things. And, some crazy stuff as the kids had new stuff come out, but they won't let go of their childhood. Now you rip a parent away in the midst of all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? You're going to break a child through its natural thing. Why? They grow up to reason those things. They depend on the parents to parent to learn right from wrong. What's good, what's bad. And if mom and dad are constantly doing this, that ain't doing the kids no damn good. And you got to put that aside. That's why so many people have nasty divorces and the arguments of this and that. Well, he's this and that. Maybe you were like that together, but if they're an individual, give them a chance to reset. Because maybe the toxic part of you together was you two together. But as individuals, be cool. Get your feelings out of it. Was something actually done? I get your feelings done, but when it comes to these courts, this is the problem with it. And that's where they're seeing a lot of this stuff of, listen, if there's domestic violence or this or that, you've got to get something filed. Is there a police report? Or did you go to the hospital? Did you do these things, this and that? And the court has to be objective, not with all your feelings. Well, they did wrong, this and that. And I talked to, because a lot of this goes with domestic violence and stuff too. It's like they're putting it up because some people and a lot of people have learned to use this as a weapon. And there's even been attorneys that have been told people, you want to get more custody for the kids? I kid you not. I've interviewed several of them. And this ought to blow the whistle on a bunch of family attorneys, especially that are dirty. And yeah, it's a huge ethics violation. But turn around and tell them, says, part of their intake thing is, does your husband beat you or this, that? And they'll stop. And they'll be like, well, confidentially, why? Because I have to disclose it to you, because those are high cases where you get the kids most of the time if there's actually been abuse or something. Oh, well, then, see, you put the carrot on the end of the stick, and it's not fair. And it's a setup, and they know it. Do what's good for the kids. It needs both. I mean, unless you've got somebody that's doing something criminal, and yes, it does happen, but do what you got to do for the kids. And like I said, the idea of raising children, and like I've passed on to mine, is learn to live in a world without you. How can you do that when you're wasting all that energy? You got to teach them, because this world out here, it's rough. It's hateful. Hell, it wants your damn children to reprogram them, to build that kind of society that are dumb and broken and do this and can perpetuate this system. They're creating their clients. Why do you think so many people, if you sit there and watch this stuff, and I know some of you do, and you watch and you're part of these different groups on Facebook, TikTok, or whatever it may be, or whatever platform, there's always somebody in there that says, yeah, they got my kids, and my mom was in the system, and I was in the system, and now my kids are in the system. Why? Because they stalk you. You were in one report, in your mom's report. Well, now they feel obligated to think, well, now that you've had kids, well, now they're saying, according to them, I have a reason to investigate or come after you because your family has a history of going into this. That's their damn logic. Not that a crime's happened. They gang stalk you. It's part of their thing of their repeat. One CPS worker, what did he call it? They called it the generational cycle customers. Yeah. Why? And the more kids you have, and the more baby daddies you have, and all this other, they benefit from that system. They take advantage of it. The first thing they do, come in and split mom and dad. And if they can find a way to weasel into the kids to question them illegally, they'll build the case from there. And they don't give a shit. But all of it's illegal and unconstitutional. If they'd followed the Constitution and the law of the land, they're not. And somebody has taught these people at a state level that statutes and codes and policies and procedures override constitutional law. It does not. Which is why it all has to go. Well, Gunnar, what are you looking for? I'm not telling you what to look for. I'm telling you what President Trump's going to look at when he realizes this has been going on and what's it doing and who it involves. And the states have been making money, and now they're going to have to go in and prosecute all these because I've blown the whistle on it, and it's filed because of a constitutional question. And let alone, well, what do you mean? You took money. You took grant money. You took this. You had somebody do this or that. All the money that you've been given or paid out, this and that, now has to be repaid. You were unconstitutional. You could not operate. Every case those judges or magistrates ever fucking heard, overturned by default. Yeah, you didn't know that? Your judge goes to jail or gets caught doing shit. And if it's something that related to your case, like they were dirty and you had those same people in your case, or like, they've been a criminal from the beginning. They never had jurisdiction. That's a huge thing. Now, what do you think that's going to do to the people that have had their kids gone? And this is me being real as knowing people. And this is why I've been telling you guys, watch your wording, watch your saying, because you can get a lot of trouble with stuff with terroristic threats and stuff. And they've really been cracking on this because they're scared. But especially judges and magistrates, that's been the biggest cases I've heard of. Terroristic threatening of a judge or a magistrate, this and that, and then those lead to criminal charges, and then they're going to put you through their same system, and then they're going to look out for their own, and all of a sudden you don't even get a fair damn hearing on it. Once again, that would be a case that should hear in federal court. Why? The state's a party. You're saying it did something as somebody that's officially a state representative in their capacity, and that's the way it was filed. That's supposed to be in federal court. Yeah, did you guys hear that? Some of you guys that know some people that have criminal charges over this bullshit, and they never had jurisdiction. Why? As soon as they made the complaint, we're going to do that. That's a state official. Well, you can't hear the case because of the bias. Once again, Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, that goes to criminal cases as well. Yeah, this blowing the whistle in this ruling is going to change our country, because the 10th Amendment never gave them the power, and they assumed the power of a federal court. That's imitating a federal judge. You took Title IV reimbursements, you took this and that. That's defrauding the federal government. And everybody, this is the other thing that I've had to tell caseworkers, because they're flipping out, because they're realizing this, because they're watching this and go, he ain't wrong. And I encourage them, go show this what I've told them. Go look, and then go to a civil rights attorney and ask them if I'm wrong. And they all come back, they go, they're not. And like, you need to protect yourself. And there's a lot of them flipping the hell out. It's like, you've been part of this. You're going to be held accountable, let alone for whatever else is uncovered. You don't know how deep this goes. Once again, we haven't had the hearing. We get to the hearing, I'm sure more things, as they always do in every single case, there is evidence that will come out under questioning. Both ways. That's the way it works. That's why it's there. So these are some of the things that you have to consider if you move forward. And this is your point, is to get your federal case ready. Why? Because as soon as that decision comes in, one, your kids have to come home because they're all null and void. Who's going to get in the way? Law enforcement. Here's the ruling. Every ruling that they had, you go straight to your sheriff. You don't get in the way of knowing. Matter of fact, I'm going to obligate you, because now these children are kidnapped. And the CPS worker, all the way to the CPS attorney, to the judges, to the magistrate, everybody that's involved in that case that was there when it happened is complicit in every single crime. And there's a thing here you can sign in. There's a website, you can click on that. You can search profiles, this and that, for finding loved ones. There's like a connection things that some of the networks are going through and putting people back together. A lot of people, especially with the adoptions that were separated at birth, it's a good resource to use. That'd be a great thing to do. Thanks, Darren, for putting that up. Yeah, that's some of the new things we're working on too, trying to reconnect. But listen, guys, you guys are going to have to get ready for them to come home, but you cannot let this lie. You need to be taking this time you don't have and work towards your forming, your being in the forge and forging your, your blades, your steels, metaphorically, I'm saying, not actually, and beating it on the iron and hammering out what's your federal case. Because if you find out that's fraud, that's kidnapping, that's this, and you can articulate that in your filing and go, hey, there's a constitutional question on this case as well as many others, because they'll notify the judges too. All the federal judges will get a memo of saying, hey, we've had a massive thing come through. Yeah, this is your attention immediately upon decision. Darren, have you got, they're asking for the website where to get that thing you put up on that people finder, please. But you guys need to understand the cause and effect of all this, how it affects you, of saying, I need to this. And right now, get through what you have. Do what you've got to do at the state level. So I know there's a lot of people, like I said, if you're dealing with the state, yes, you can go to your state appellate court, file your mandamuses, your writs, serotonin, whatever you got to file that fits for your case. Let the higher court know that they're fucking up, this and that. And here's the best thing. Now you can use that you've notified the higher court, you've still had this and that, and you can even give them so many days to correct or dismiss. And once again, that's all within your powers of the lower court. Say, hey, now the appellate court said you got to do this. And I've seen judges removed over that, because you can actually call out the judge's bias. They're get it in their policies, procedures, especially CPS or the rules of civil procedure for your state. It's in the codes, in the statutes. There's a section for it that's not crazy to read. It's not like a huge book, but start reading in those sections of what they must do. What's their job as a GAL per the state's definition? Were those met? No. To CPS, this is what they were supposed to do. It's a checklist. Did they do this, and this? Find the thing they didn't do. Check, they didn't do it, and why it would took and turn around your case completely. And then, like I said, you've got the big one, jurisdiction. Show me where you have jurisdiction, because I'm challenging it. And right now, there's a federal constitutional question on the record right now, waiting on an answer. Understanding you may be doing something criminal and imitating a federal judge. Holy shit. Now you've woke him up. Your Honor, are you aware? Because I'm challenging jurisdiction now that you can't make a decision, and you better return my damn kids, because you're about to commit a felony. And from the looks of it, you can stop now. But once that constitutional question's answered, whatever you say don't mean jack, because it's null and void. Yeah, that's where you can guys have the opportunity, if you so choose, to open it up, because it's filed. There's nothing they can do about it. Your Honor, you realize that means this. It says, and that's where I say you start out with a question: is CPS or the plaintiff the state? It says it right there on their paperwork. Yeah, they were dumb enough to put it on paper too. That's evidence. Like it was in my case. Look. Did they even have jurisdiction? Because the Constitution says no. I dare you to take it to SCOTUS upon appeal or anything else. Why? Because we quoted SCOTUS. So we're doing the best we can, like I said, with what we have. And we're trying to give you guys information of where we're going with this case. And your case is going to be completely different than our filing. And we don't have, that'd be fine, Darren. I want you guys to educate yourself enough to where you're ready. I mean, if you're fighting through this, I mean, basically it's going to come to the breaks of stop of saying the decision's out. Court's over. You can't proceed. The Supreme Court just ruled on this on a constitutional question. You don't have jurisdiction. Why? CPS nationwide. It'll affect all 50 states immediately upon that decision. And then people can file whatever they want, this and that. But we're not wrong. It's clear. It's right there. It's as clear as the nose on your face. You can't. And we know it. And now they hit it because they're caught. They're going to get caught. All their players for CPS, all the way down to the caseworker, the social worker, the investigator, the supervisor, the administrator, all of them are now complicit in all these federal crimes. And guess what? They get the nice little endorsement of crimes against children is the way it should be filed, because this involved children and families. The script's going to flip. The people that accused you are now in the hot seat for what they did. And they're looking at not just civil bullshit of psychological fucking misery. You're looking at hard time, because it's a count or a charge for each child or family you came in contact to. What, you don't think the president's aware of the case and they're waiting on this and that? Because I'm sure something's in place that they know once this is answered and what the cause and effect of this is, why, and they're watching these shows. Boom, you're done. You're shut down. You can't move. Now we got a bunch of questions, because now law enforcement is complicit in this. Your judicial branch of your state government's involved in this. Your state legislation's involved in this. And on top of it, your governor is responsible for your entire state. That's what he voted in there to do, that they would stand up for, and this and that. They're all called co-conspirators. All the way back as the criminal division wants to go, but we have the evidence to turn around and point them all in the right direction. And there's enough of you guys out there of, hey, we'll suggest, hey, just open a thing and just give them a this and this and that and a case number and do it state by state. What, you thought that fraud division thing that they just opened in the DOJ was for, it's for all federal fraud, including this. Yeah. Assets will have to be seized for everybody involved. Why? The amount of lawsuits. you guys are going to do, I mean, that are going to come on, and they hope some of you don't do it. And they're hoping to sell some of you guys to lawyers that are just going to say, hey, let's just do a big class action. You get nowhere. Look at the cases. Who gets paid in those? And Darren will tell you the same thing. Who gets paid in those? The attorneys. One per state, they'll try and settle. They're trying to do some kind of backdoor deal or something to pay people. And we, the people, then the power's in our hands, because it's like, this is all gone. It has to be. It's unconstitutional, and it's been running a criminal enterprise in the name of your state government. Yeah. Which means what? State government's gone, so the power and authority of the state, which means your local government's power and authority, is gone. All police departments lose their accreditation and everything else. Your local state workers, or people that work for your local government, all their power and authority is gone. Why? Because the state has collapsed for being unconstitutional and robbing the federal government, which means robbing all your other neighboring states as well. We're going back to the Constitution, man. He gave us the power the first term, returned the power to the people in that ceremony, handed it over to the military because he knew how corrupt this was, and he took a chance on you and me, we the people, which is where the power goes, to see if we're just so far gone, this constitutional republic doesn't stand a chance. Because that's what our founding framers said. This experiment, like I said in the beginning of the show, this experiment known as a constitutional republic hinges, it's pivotal on an informed citizen. We forgot our Constitution, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to get back in it and then teach the hell out of our kids, because we assumed when they went to school they would get all this. They're lying their asses off, and they took federal money too. There's another issue. Why? Who got in there? We called it Commie Core. Because why? It was meant to make people stupid. One of the creators of Commie Core actually admitted to it because of the test scores. People were getting too smart too quick, and they had to dumb them down. It's literally in public education, and it's on the record. This is why there was a big move and a big uptrend, because of after the Commie Core, everybody went to homeschool. All the good teachers left. They quit. The others, well, I need a job, and it's just a job, and and didn't think. I'm getting ready to dumb down a whole generation, and they've struggled ever since, even in the workforces now they've gone through. Some have. It's an attempt to overthrow our government and a certain amount or a class of people to have control, some of them being judicial. Once again, law enforcement. Am I saying everybody's bad? No, but they're all caught up in this shit now. Everything about the bar, you guys bitching about the bar and these attorneys. You want to tell me how I pointed this out, and nobody, no judge, no magistrate, no licensed attorney, this and that, nobody caught this while 30 years worth of this? I mean, nobody had a constitutional class to go, wait a minute, I know the Constitution pretty well. I'm pretty versed into it. How the hell can you hear that case under jurisdiction? Because that's one of the first things they cover, I believe, Darren, in law school. Jump your ass in here. We're going to talk about this. Because if you guys don't know, Darren is in law school. That's one of the first things they teach you in law school, isn't it? Is jurisdiction.
Yeah, that's it. You can challenge it at any time. You better have it, or your case is gone. Period. End of story. No jurisdiction, no nothing. No jurisdiction, no case, Gunner.
Yep. No authority.
No nothing.
You guys out there that got open cases, throw that out there and tell them there's a constitutional question now to hold them accountable for all the other cases they are.
If they don't, if you challenge jurisdiction, they have to stop everything immediately, and they have to prove that they had jurisdiction. They have to.
And you are more than welcome to use what we've told you here, to use the 10th Amendment says, and highlight the part that says powers not delegated to the federal government. They go to Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, and it says all cases, there's no exception. All cases where the state's a party, the federal court has got original jurisdiction, and they don't have jurisdiction over much, actually, Darren, correct? In the lower courts of the division courts.
No, not at all.
It's the Court of Appeals that's the biggest power for
Correct.
The federal court.
Yep, sure is. That's the only place that the law even begins. The rest of the courts
Yeah.
are all Mickey Mouse, man.
That's why we tell you guys, this, don't waste much time, because they're going to do what they want to do. You just sit there, collect evidence,
Yeah,
record, document.
Right. Go to your appeal. You fight this thing not to win your TPR or whatever you're going through. You go there to fight in that appeal. Log your evidence. Fight this thing for that appeal. Just put everything on the record. Because don't forget, Gunner, you can only argue in an appeal what was brought up in trial. So if you don't have any information, if you can't go to an appeal,
or the fact that you're delaying trial when there's a deadline, and that's part of the policies and procedures that somebody we both know that they were like 200 and something days past the deadline. And it's like, no, you were supposed to adjudicate this according to your thing or return the kids, and you just held on to them. And then it went to the appellate court with like a mandamus and a writ combo. And then the judge was recused. And then the court appointed attorney, this is fucked up on that particular case, is the court appointed attorney for this person was also best friends with the judge, and that was never disclosed. And then on top of that, that judge actually runs the GAL program. So for that judge to be in any courtroom where there's a GAL, she must recuse herself, and did not do it. So where that is, like I said, I haven't followed
that's
up
the problem.
on that.
Look, that's the problem, Gunner. This is the problem, is that everybody is doing the things that are right, but the courts are not. And that's what you can't take into, you can't take that into line, is the corruption. Like we all can sit here and say we are arguing jurisdiction because we know that they didn't have jurisdiction over our kids to begin with. They didn't have it. But yet the courts will say, yes, they did, or they're just going to tell you to shut up and this doesn't matter. You have to sit there and insert what you're saying and go over and pound them on that stuff, because they're going to just try to run you over, because they don't want anybody else to know that you're right.
And like I said, that's why I told you guys before you point those things out, ask the court and address it, put it on the record. And I've known a lot of people to sneak in little microphones and record it because you're collecting evidence for federal court. You know what I'm saying? I just caught you in this. Hey, what are you going to do? I can't record that I just caught you in a crime. That's destroying criminal evidence. That's a felony. That's an additional felony. You see how that works? Now you do that and go, Your Honor, I need to address the court. What's that? I need to know whether or not the CPS, whatever they call it in your state, or who I'm facing over here, do they work for the state, or are they a state entity? And of course, they're going to come around, and as Darren knows, they're going to puff up their chest, and they're going to turn around and go, well, of course they are. They have the full power of the state. And Thank you, Your Honor. Well, I'd like to challenge jurisdiction. Excuse me? Well, the 10th Amendment is very explicit, and you bring in copies of it. Here's a copy of the handbook. Highlight it. It says, except for those powers delegated to the federal government, okay? Or to the people.
I would make sure if people are going to use that too, that they submit that into their court files as evidence.
Yeah.
To make sure that you get
get a file on the court clerk that's how you're challenging jurisdiction. Remember, you have to do a challenge of jurisdiction. You have to file that a motion for a challenge of jurisdiction. And once again, this is something that any court will tell you if you just watch it. This is the procedure. These are the rules of civil procedure. And it's pretty simple of saying, here's this. I filed it with the court clerk this morning, and I'm here with copies. Here you go. And this is where I was telling you guys, this is why these little handheld, especially for court, copies of the Declaration of Independence and Constitution, and you literally give them one, and if you're giving it to them, you can even highlight it, index it, the whole fucking thing. Open up the thing right there where it says this. See that's Article 3. That's original jurisdiction of the federal court. What's it say? All cases where the state's a party. This court just said that they are the state, or a thing of the state. Therefore, this court does not have jurisdiction. They filed illegally under this and that, and they've kidnapped my kids under false orders that you don't have jurisdiction, and I demand my children be returned, is the way I would handle it. Because here's the thing. It's not just that I filed this, Your Honor. Your Honor needs to be aware there is now a federal constitutional question before the federal court waiting answer on just this subject. Now, the worst they could say is, well, let's stay this till then. Your Honor, no, that's cruel and unusual punishment. We can't delay something when you have guidelines of this and that because you can't this or that. I'm making you aware of the same thing that there is. And if we read it as it means what it says and says what it means, it's explicit. Original jurisdiction, because you admitted they were the state. You don't have jurisdiction to hear this case nor any of the cases that's ever been brought before you before. And then they get scared because then they actually do something they haven't done. Read the Constitution probably for the first time, and they read that one line and you highlight it and you hand it to them. These are pocket size. These are acceptable in any courtroom. You can bring these in. Why? You can even turn, Your Honor, I don't think I need to make those exhibits, but if I need to, I'll be more than happy to file a digital copy of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence on what I'm using and get it on the court record. But everybody's presumed, especially a judge under their judicial canons, to be knowledgeable in this.
Yeah, I mean that's part of their oath. It's part of their oath. I mean, you would think that they should know what their whole basis of their job description is, and that's to defend the Constitution.
And you guys are not going to surprise anybody because Darren knows. I had to file this constitutional question by the guidelines of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure under constitutional questions. Has to go to your state attorney general and then file it in Washington, D.C. at the headquarters for the Attorney General's office. Why? Because they have to take special notice of the ruling for both civil and criminal actions. You get it yet? This is why we're talking cause effect and why it has to be, because if this comes out, this is clear, the DOJ is going to say, yeah, it's pretty clear, and start charging people and getting people. And this is, now they've got exactly what they want. The FC network will collapse. The DEDI network will collapse. The whatever it may be in your town. No more CPS kids. Why? We're going to find them all. Now it becomes a high priority, both criminally and civilly. That's where they have a joint task force between the U.S. Marshals and probably the FBI, I would say, Darren, from my understanding, as well as possibly Department of Homeland Security. They will find every child because they'll have to. They'll be obligated to per the decision. Now the federal government has to. Why? Because the state violated the Constitution. The federal government's required to correct that. That's not a, oh, well, we'll give you oversight. No, this is a major fucking thing. This ain't a joke. This is the thing we've all been looking for. I know Darren and I, we kicked around this, we've talked about it, as I was going through this case and putting it together and this and that. And early days, I got some of my earlier stuff from, Malibu, Dallas, and you get things from learning. Sometimes you don't have to be, this or that with anybody. Sometimes you just want to learn. And you got to put them biases aside or that anger and just say, let me see if it makes sense when you're exploring these things. That's why people get so many noise or so many advocates or so many this or that. And then, and your opinions on whatever with money or no money, that's your own personal decision. Nobody's got a right to make that decision for you. You're entitled to your own, you know what I'm saying? Your own opinion as you are.
You spend your money the way that you want to spend your money. Don't let anybody out there tell you, look, all we can do is guide you to the right places. If we know someone's a fraud, we'll tell you if someone's a fraud. But look, you've been taken away. Enough of your rights have been taken away and your opinions and all of that when all of this is going through CPS. If you want to give someone money, give them money. Don't let that be taken away from you.
That's up to you. That's up to you. You once again, that's your individual right. And I have no business telling anything, nor does anybody else, a yes or a no. You spend your money. That's like telling you fucking what you can buy at the damn grocery store and you only get, skim milk. Man, you got a lot of people out there that's like, I ain't drinking that water, milk or not. Well, that's what you get. And that's my opinion. Therefore, you must do. There's the problem with this country, too. People need to keep your opinions to yourself. It's okay to put it out there. But when you start chasing people and some of the other things, it gets a little ridiculous. With some of it is take the good, leave the bad. That's the best way you can deal with people. Why? Because usually every person's got something to offer to educate you and gain knowledge or information, this, that, even if it's teaching you not to go around people like that and you know what to look for. They're teaching you. Be grateful for that stuff. Don't let it eat you up. But yeah, when it comes down to this is and we're on a ticking time bomb. Because they're going to answer this question before I even have my case. the constitutional question. We'll have a deadline because we've got a couple others we're working on submitting, but we have some other things we have to address because, like I said, I had a case in 2025 and I had to refile in 2026, but there was a lot of things there. So now we've got to do some of the cleanup because I don't have a plaintiff. I think there's something that I missed that was part of one of the decisions, and the decision of corrections and sifting through and everything else is 18 pages long was the judge's remarks. And those judges, oh, well, you got 18 pages. No, it's telling us what to correct, what not to correct. But understand this too. The judge may not always be right. And you have that motion. Well, this is where a motion to reconsider, even though it's dismissed, with prejudice, you still can file a motion to reconsider based off of this new information because of where you're going with it. And that's something that they have to do, and they do adjust to. Your Honor, or this is what briefs are for. This is what arguments are for. This is what court's for. This is part of the game, the back and forth, that you play in a federal court. A little bit here, a little bit there. So you don't just go out there and blow your whole thing. That's what I'm telling a lot of people. Say something for the questioning. There's a point of going into court to get testimony. If you've got it all on paper, yeah, you can do that, and that's great. And then you can ask for a summary judgment after you get through the process and then bypass the jury altogether and say, Judge, we got so much here. Can I just get a damn ruling? Let me get a summary judgment. And there's a motion for summary judgment. Why? Because it's so clear on paper. It doesn't need to have, more, through there, unless you have especially evidence that may come out during testimony, which happens a lot. That's the point of bringing in witnesses or calling people. Your paperwork's stable, but then you explain the parts of the jury. What does the jury do in a case like this? They hear my case and they assign a dollar amount to the damages I've been done to basically, I can't get time back. I can't get my health back. I can't get the fact that none of this should have ever fucking happened. You now have to compensate me for all the damage you've done. And that's where you come through of what damage was done. And you can do it by directly telling them, using supporting witnesses, supporting exhibits, whether it's, movies, pictures, documents. These all things are called, these are all exhibits. And just make sure you do a cover letter of explaining what you're trying to get at in your case. Or in other words, the point of the video, hey, this goes to, you reference, exhibit B back on your complaint, here, this says this, and we've told you use that structure of like criminal, federal criminal court. Use that structure in your complaint like they do there, because you're going to get by with it. Because it's it's the same structure. Explain the code or the violation, constitutional rights violation, exactly what it is, not how they've done it yet. Cite all those. Next part, you have to go through and explain who did them and how they were done, being specific as far as time, date, place, all these things. Some of them you can summarize because it's pretty obvious. If it happened in court, obviously it happened at this address. They put it together. That's obvious, unless the court wants you to be that anal, which, usually it's just understood because they put 2 and 2 together. You should know how this works. So it's one of those things that they understand this, and that's where the way they proceed. But sometimes the things that they've been doing or the way that they've been ruling, like there was one particular thing that they pointed out is there's been a recent ruling in 2025 that was quoted in my case saying pro se litigants, especially using False Claims Act, we need to take that and not dismiss it with prejudice, but without prejudice, because sometimes they need just a little bit more. In other words, giving us, we the people, a little bit more slack of we're on the right trail. We just need a little bit more, or the court needs a little bit more information to make that connection. But once again, there's nothing wrong with it. Don't correct it. Sometimes is the best thing is let it write out. And then once you get past certain markers and everything, now let me reapply this. Why? Because eventually during discovery, you get subpoenas, you get this, you get that. There's a lot of powers that you have, and you got to have time to review it and put it on the record and everything else, and then you have to tie it in, rewrite your thing based off of what you have or what you know is there. Um, well, listen, run it if you're talking your state Supreme Court. Once again, going there is one thing. They're going to tell you, I'm going to save you some time. They're going to tell you to file the paperwork properly because they're not investigators. And the state investigators or the state police or your state version of FBI aren't going to do shit, is what we're getting back from all 50 states and a majority of counties. They're not doing dick. They're protecting their own because this is all a money thing because they never had enough money to run their own TBI version, or their FBI version within the state that kind of has this thing. That was just under the state police. Now this goes above and beyond, that even covers above the state police. So they've created something different. But once again, to get that and have the funds to create those things, all that money was done to create those things was through fraud. That's a big problem. So you're going to see all these things fade away and gone, and all of a sudden everybody's like, I ain't got a job. No, we're doing a criminal investigation, but you can't interact with the public with what we know. We have to do a statewide investigation in every state because of this fraud, because of the constitutional question that was answered. That's why the Attorney General's office has to know about these, because if it's that big of a thing, then they have to get with all the state attorney generals and go, we got a major problem. Because if that's the case, your state has been illegal and unconstitutional for over 30 years. And if that's true with what's in here and what's been filed in this, and this court is saying, yes, it is because of the decision, which is what the court's investigating and researching. And they're coming to find out, I ain't wrong. The question is the fallout. What do you do? And the other problem that they hate is the fact I have this show, because then I explain it to you guys to where it's not a secret. You know what's going on. You realize what you've been done. And what am I doing? Nothing wrong. I'm press. But at the same time, what am I doing? Educating you about the Constitution, your rights, but giving you real world examples and how this fits together and how the process works. And you should all know what I know. There's the scary part. I shouldn't have to educate you guys. But they failed us. But they did it for control, because then they could get away with it. If you don't know your rights, how can you claim your rights? Now you're playing catch up, and some of them, 40, 30, 40, 50 years old. Hell, I'd love to have done this in my damn 20s. At least I had the rest of my life ahead of me. You're young. You got plenty of time, man. You got to learn this stuff. You got to teach this stuff to your kids. It's not a joke. Otherwise, the same thing's going to happen to them. But here's the thing. Our damn founding fathers knew this shit. It's in the Declaration of Independence when it talks about when the government becomes tyrannical, because it knows we as human nature, and as several other societies before us, they get comfortable with something and their rights erode. That's why they wrote the Constitution the way they did. That you could do a full timeout and stop everything and go, whoa, no, you're unconstitutional. We got to stop. But they've hid that process from us in our defense to do that when we got caught up in these bullshit courts. We didn't know. I have spent thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours in research. I know so is Darren, so is several other people. I mean, we've done, instead of playing games or doing this, what are we doing? We're in there learning this, reading case law. That's the free time. Reading this book on this and that. Why? To strengthen the case. To make sure this actually works for me and for all of us. Because walking into that and being the whistleblower on that, there's no more jurisdiction for me. You can't touch me. No state ever, or my family. Because it's retaliation. Yeah, actually becoming a true sovereign or a federal citizen. I can't belong to any state. I have to give up my license and anything else that I have, that particular, and I go get a passport. And then they will have a special box. Do not stop or detain. Literally put right on there, making it automatically federal, just like an ambassador. You got to fill all that out at your passport, and you can justify it. Why? Because of this ruling. And I'm sure they'll be more than happy to help with that in those departments. I'm the guy that won that case, that did this, and I need to get some things straightened out because I'm no longer this. My status will have changed. And for you guys, all of a sudden that changes your world, man. One day you're justified in saying all this time, whether it's 5 months, 10 years, 15 years, that the first time there's actually a true shot and hope of this getting answered and it all ending, and you just go get your damn kids because it's void from the beginning. Void ab initio is the terminology that will probably be written in there. Void ab initio. It has to be. It has to be. Which would make, that would add on to the crimes they've already done. You never had jurisdiction, but you destroyed people. And the other thing is now you go after their bonds, their insurance, or this or that. You go after that. Why? And this is where we're dealing with this too. Their individual immunity. How can they be individually immunity when they never had jurisdiction and they were doing their thing per the constitutional question? These are some of the things that we have to, once again, the court has asked questions. We're going to chill and wait, but we get to go back and clarify some of those things of going, okay, you want a little bit more detail here. Let me paint the rest of the picture that I've already been sharing with you guys. This is the stuff that's getting ready and we're working on now to be filed on top of other constitutional questions. Why? Because they need to be asked. That's the point of the court. We need an answer that all states must, that's what a constitutional question does, that all states must abide by. If you're dumb enough and you just put your state, well, then that makes one state compliant. And that's why states get out of control. People are not filing that right. You put it in for your state, or if you have one or two states, primary, which you can also throw in wording to include as all states do and put that in there. Therefore, once again, it's a constitutional question. Once it's answered, it's effective. Once the decision is fucking put on the record, it's automatically in play. That's the big difference. So when I say it has an impact, and you guys are like, oh, and why people are coming on, and like I was telling several people, I think even Darren might have come in crossing, man, I'm getting like 50 to 100 people a day on the new TikTok platform. And if you guys want to know the platforms that we're on, if you guys miss a show, you guys can always go to YouTube and go to our page there, Gunning for CPS, the number 4 right there. It's there. I'm on as the show's over. I download it. I upload it to Spotify, so you can get us on Spotify for some of the newer episodes. We're usually on TikTok Live. I think we're on Twitch. Several other platforms and several YouTube channels. And like I said, I think we're looking at expanding it, and there's finding some ways to get some other channels and connect them to rebroadcast, because like I said, some of these platforms are but YouTube and some of the others have stuff that you can rebroadcast with other ones, and once one gets going, then it's just a chain of events. You just got to play with it. It's fun stuff. There's ways to do things, but listen, you guys keep up your courage. Get through what you have to with the state. Those are your options. I'm going to tell you, if you find them and you catch them in a lower court, make the higher court aware. And that's going to look good on your case when you go federal, of saying, I noticed this, I did this, I did that. And once again, I notified the court of the constitutional question of jurisdiction, and a little common sense as soon as you point out those two things that I've told you. The 10th Amendment and this over here saying you can't have authority. It was designated to the federal government. You filed in the wrong court. Give me my kids back because all your orders are null and void. You never had jurisdiction. And you guys start blowing the whistle, and they know there's a cause. They know it's coming. And if they're smart, it's been going through, like I said, all the state attorney generals. And then, of course, they leak it out to the judges like, y'all are getting ready to get fucked up. What do you mean? It's like, yeah, and it's probably one of the games, and that ain't going to help them. Forensic, accountants and everything else. Well, it's offshore. It's part of a trust. It's an it doesn't matter when it comes to constitutional crimes, buddy. You committed a federal offense, and that all of a sudden you get in and they just wipe them out. Why? Because you guys, I'm suing one case, but you guys have got all your own individual cases that you can come behind on. Then now you have standing. It's already been ruled on. You're just here to file your portion. Your Honor, go see this case. And that's where that constitutional question, I'm basing it off the constitutional question. It's a huge due process violation. I wasn't even in the right court. It's criminal. It's fraud upon the court. It's this. It's imitating a federal. You can use all those things in your filings. Why? Because you're citing this is the jurisdiction. Can they hear the case? And once we get the answer, it's over. I mean, and here's the problem. Most people go, it can't be that simple. It's that simple. Because the state can't claim a power. Why? It was designated to the federal court. It's right there in black and white. It's right there on the hemp paper. Hemp, cotton, I forgot, the different stuff. But once again, this is what we're telling you guys. Study hard, get in this, get in these other videos. As we've progressed, our shows have changed. It's become more of this. It's become more of that. As I'm getting things through, and now I'm getting people's attention. Hey, this is really going to, we have a real shot at this thing ending, really high percentage shot, because they have to answer the constitutional question regardless of the case, because it's been proposed to the court. It's going to have an impact. And they have to understand to keep things going because it has such a huge impact. Things are going to have to be put in place, but I have a real strong, I don't know, Darren, let's pop in here and give me your thoughts. So
that was a lot of talking, Gunner. What are my opinions on which part? The whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle, or what?
The whole kit and caboodle. I mean, if this goes through and all those people are now guilty of those things and mass arrests and this and that, that would actually in our state governments collapse because of this, which it should.
It's going to defund. Look, if this goes through the way that we talk about, the way that it says and everything, it will completely collapse this country because the financial aspect of it just alone, the money aspect of it alone will decimate. I mean, this country's run on child trafficking, 100%. That's what our economy is based off of. No matter how you look at it, no matter how you shake it, definitions say that child trafficking is buying and selling children. Well, that's what's going on here with CPS. It's child trafficking, 100%. And if they come out and they say that this is wrong and this is what it is, there's going to be a whole lot of people looking for not only for their children, but they're going to have their hands out too, saying, what about the money? Not even about the money that's been spent fraudulently by our government, because don't forget, that's still our money.
Yeah.
We pay, there's no federal dollar or state dollar. That money is our money. We pay taxes. That's our money. So where's our money? Where is all of this wasted money gone? And I want my money back. And it's going to cause
insurance. Bonds are gone. Bonds are going to be cashed in. Insurance is going to be cashed in to where they're non-insurable. But now they have no assets because they're in the deficit, not only to, and here's the issue. They're in such a deficit for what they're going to have to repay, like you said, the federal government. But now each and every individual case that happened within that state that they heard can now go back and sue them. And that's going to take this, and they're going to run out, like you said, it's going to run out of money. And it's like, who gets to it first, or they put you on this, or they set something.
You will have miles and miles of lawsuits that people won't even be able to have their cases heard in their lifetime. And that's if the courts even stand, because who's going to, where's your faith in the trust in the court going to lie now?
Well, it's not so much the court. Once again, my faith is in the people, because if it's on the record and the court's ruled it, it's cause and effect. So who do you run to? Because law enforcement's collapsed. You've lost all public trust.
This is what I'm saying. The whole kit and caboodle, man. And then finally, people will be paying attention. Finally, people will be paying attention to the fact that our kids, like we've all been crying about for all these years, are being trafficked, and no one's done a goddamn thing about it but us.
Yeah. I mean, that was took in. Once again, somebody asked me that because somebody else said, well, what about foster parents, or what about parents that adopt? what's going to be their consequence? I go, that's not up to me. That's up to the state. Yeah, that's up to the federal attorney general on how you were complicit. I mean, I'm sure if you kidnap somebody,
well, how are you going to
and
determine
and you hide somebody out somewhere,
right? Because how are you going to determine the ones that did this for a paycheck, and how are you going to determine the ones that were doing this for real? You know what I mean?
Well, the fact is it's considered aiding and abetting the state in constitutional crimes and children kidnapping. I mean, if they want to go down that road, that's not me to do. And this is why I was getting the attention of a lot of social workers. I'm like, you will be complicit in these crimes.
If they were never given a place to put those children, there never would take as many of them as they were.
Yeah.
Period.
And all of a sudden, like you said, they're going to empty out. So a lot of these children's homes, a lot of this and that are now going to lose a ton of funding because they won't get it for the kids that are there unless they've got them there for, say, a criminal reason, that type of thing. But all these other kids that were brought in by the system, and once again, that's if it didn't predate the fact on how they got a hold of them. Because if they got a hold of them and they committed crimes after the fact of this and that, well, does it negate the crime? You're going to have to, because what happened to them for cause and effect, they should have been at home. So now the court is going to have to consider that.
What court?
Huh?
What court is anybody going to trust?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you go through, your federal courts are there, but I'm saying everybody's got to return home, because now it has to go into origin, which is going to open an investigation of this one, and this one, or here's a blanket. And then, like I said, everybody else, that's why I said start filing. Because here's the thing.
The only thing that would make this obsolete to everybody is if it's all ruled void ab initio, because then anything that was done after the fact is non-existent. And that would be the only fair way to do it to foster parents and things like that were legitimately trying to help these kids and these families. But other than that, burn them all, man. Because
once again, that's not. Yeah, I mean, we can make theories, we can spit them all day, but what actually gets done is yet to be seen. Is what we're doing with this, some foreshadowing. So it's don't get in trouble. Oh, I'm getting ready to do this. I go, that's not the case. Well, once again, we don't know. These are some of the possibilities, and we'll see when we get there, type thing. But these are some of the possibilities. There are things that they'll say, you're right. Well, they didn't. No, they were an innocent party. Didn't, thought that they were doing this and that. But there's not a CPS worker that's going to get out of that. There's not, anybody all the way up the chain of command for CPS done. The people for the attorneys, everybody that was in that courtroom, for all those courtrooms, they can't practice law anymore. They just participated in mass fraud. There goes all your state licensed fucking attorneys that were in family court. Your license don't mean shit now. It has to be. Just go on.
What about what about all the legislators that indeed put family courts on the map?
They weaponize CPS with this and that. They're going to have to answer for that, because now we're going to go into something a little bit deeper, because this one's really going to hurt you. See, the state weaponized CPS and they took over, or the state assigned the responsibilities of investigation of child abuse and this and that to a state entity. There's a huge problem with that. Why? Because we elected our sheriff. And when we had the power of election, and that is his duties to investigate crimes, and they're saying crimes have happened and it's not, and let alone for them to investigate, is taking powers away from we the people, because we elected somebody that would do that already. And now you've circumvented the sheriff's office or somebody that's been an elected official and stripped them of powers. You can't do that. That's illegal. That's unconstitutional. That is taking away the power and voice of we the people and the vote. You just nullified it. You can't do that. That there is a crime of treason right there for whoever's involved in that. That's not going to be good, because they're going to push this to the limit. Why? Because here's the issue. We, the parents, then would have a great strong voice, and we're going to say, oh, fuck no, none of these motherfuckers get off. And no, we ain't doing that Epstein shit, taking, like Pam Bondi said one time, if I did and arrested everybody, we wouldn't have anybody in government. Well, guess what? We, the people, now are coming with this and that. And like I said, I want it peacefully. I'm doing it properly. under the First Amendment, making my petitions known and giving them a chance to correct or amend. But if it comes down to it, we have now put on the federal record or notified the federal government that our states are operating not only just unconstitutionally, but criminally. As a criminal enterprise, the state is. And here's the evidence. And it goes with what? As simple as, did they hear these cases? We know they have. Therefore, if they didn't have jurisdiction, then every order they ever put out, anything they've ever done now becomes a criminal charge against them with multiple counts. You never had this. And this is why they hate me educating you guys. Why? Because if that was an Article 1 judge and there's a court order in there to enter the home, that's going to be brought up in the federal criminal case. And then you didn't, wait a minute, you wrote warrants, or you signed warrants, or you did this and this in your county. Well, yeah, I'm a judge. You're in Article 1. You can't do anything. Article 3 is required for anything Fourth Amendment related. The home. Including to be what? Securing your persons. Can they come in your house and steal your kids out of your house without something signed by an Article 3 judge? No. So if they took them out, it's a criminal act by all involved. It's kidnapping. Because that family court judge, I ain't found one yet, Darren. Have you? That's Article 3?
Never.
A rare case. They're all Article 1. They don't have the power to issue these orders. They're acting like they're a federal judge and they have all this power. They have restricted duties and powers doing this shit. But they want to act big and bad. This is why they were called the Justice of the Peace, and they renamed themselves judges and put on the black robes to look like a federal fucking judge. And now we've got them caught. Not only did they go that far, now they've actually imitated a federal judge by hearing your case.
Right. That's treasonous as well. I don't know if treasonous is a word, but it is.
Well, yeah. I mean, and here's the thing, which means everybody's personal assets have got to be seized, regardless of credit companies or this and that. It becomes property of the federal government. Why? Because you have to pay for all these lawsuits. They know they're coming. They'll jack your, I mean, they've done this for big white collar things and stuff, lock up all their funds. You can't do shit with it. It's locked down. You're froze. They won't take it, but they can freeze it. Your account, your everything. Now you got no job, no money. All your shit's been fucking repoed and all this other shit. You got no bond and this and that. What are you going to do? The higher ups and everything else, well, that's okay. I've got money. No, it's all froze. Because you obtain that money illegally by kidnapping and trafficking children and hearing cases, this and that. They will freeze everything. Well, a trust, that's one way they can walk over a trust. Criminal acts or acts of treason against the country, defrauding the federal government. And here's the best part. And Darren knows this. Not a single person can say the words, well, I didn't know. You work in government, you were required to know. Uh-oh, you work for the judicial branch. You're required to know. As a citizen of the United States, you're required to know. It's in the Federalist Papers. It says it, which is why if you read it, we're required to educate each other and the school system and the state and this and that to affirm or run to the aid of the Constitution per their oath, and they've all violated it. And there's no way to get out of it. Because they'll have to issue the Department of Justice upon getting that ruling. The way that would supposedly go was the DOJ will issue immediate cease and desist to the Attorney General of every state and tell them shut it down. Return the children. They're all void ab initio. Go get those kids home. Lock it down. And they may not trust them anymore enough to where, guess what, who comes in? They federalize the National Guard and they'll do it. They'll hunt these kids down. It's game over. We told you the reckoning is about going back to the Constitution. And when you guys realize how much shit out there has been going on is unconstitutional, illegal, criminal felonies. See, we're overdue for a civil war as a country, according to history. Usually about every 200, every 200 years, that, throughout history, that usually there's some kind of revolution or something or some major change. We just hit 250 years, Darren, and now we're looking at shaking up our country at 250 years of, we're going to have to, under the Declaration of Independence, it has to come down. You can't have these people in there. Hell, not only did they hurt the people, they hurt the federal government. They took on that. Like I told you guys, man, this is like, and I've compared this before, and Darren, I think you loved this one before. I said, it's like a kid that's a bully and takes your lunch money and beats on you, but you know the family, you know the big brother more than anything else. You know the big brother don't put up with that shit so long as you articulate and say, hey, this motherfucker's a bully and this and that. And then big brother comes in and whoops some ass, and he's been stealing your money. It ain't going to go over well. Somebody's going to get their ass whooped hard. And there's more that'll push for this or that. Like I said, some people will go, as the Constitution says, what do we do about this? And they're going to have to decide, because now they've all violated their oath. And according to the Constitution, there's parts in there, like Carl Miller says, take them to the edge of town, string them up by a tree, and let them hang for so long, and put a sign out front of why they're being hung. Boy, that way, we can't do that. You traumatize the children. It's a good trauma. You violate this country's Constitution and you put those things there. That's why it was put in there. Make it public. You don't do this to our country. It needs an example. And you think now these parents are going to let you off with making plea deals and all this other shit? Not with constitutional crimes, not something of this nature. No, 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 no. And and understand, that's where I step back and you guys watch, because I'll be dealing with things, and you guys sit there, they're watchers. You watch the Department of Justice and make sure that they do and they don't cut deals. And you guys start writing into the Department of Justice, the Attorney General or Acting Attorney General, hey, with this case and this decision and all these criminal things coming up because of this constitutional question, you better hell not fucking cut a deal with any of these motherfuckers. And now have all the parents that had their kids taken write that letter to the Attorney General. Yes, get the stamp, get the paper, write the damn letter. Hey, there's a federal constitutional question. If that means this, you better do something. You better not let these criminals off of it. You better get them all. That's where you guys want to start writing stuff and passing the word. Start telling everybody. Start writing letters to, the Attorney General that already knows about this constitutional question. They're fully aware of it. You guys start writing in and you put the pressure on them to do the right thing and don't cut no damn deals with these fuckers. Fullest extent of the law. We need to make examples. These are traitors. Because then that whole thing of best interest for the child is going to go right out the door, especially when it says, isn't the best interest of the child that's a constitutional question? Their constitutional rights. Oh, they're going to hate when they answer that one, because we got so much more on there, because it's acknowledged by even the DOJ. That's why I've told you guys, if your child's been questioned without a civil rights attorney, that's inadmissible in any court under fruit from a poisonous tree. Excuse me. Because here's the thing. Now they violated the child's constitutional rights. They're not even supposed to go to this and that. If you have a government official or anything else, you have the right to exercise that. For them not even to offer it, well, they don't read Miranda. Well, there's some states, Darren, isn't that true, that they were starting to tell people that they had to read them their rights before they started questioning them? In some states that was passed.
Yeah, and you know that they have to actually read them their rights. They can't rehearse them from the mind.
Got to read the card. So that's changing because they've been caught too many times and they're trying to save this. You can't save for defrauding the government and not having jurisdiction. CPS, if they're going to weaponize them and do this and that, well, you may be a state representative. Well, then put them in the federal court, but then you got to meet what? The rules of federal civil procedure. You won't get past that. You'll get past one brief and they'll cry constitutional rights. And that's why you don't want them to go, because that federal court will listen on constitutional rights and you can articulate it and they'll end it. That's why they never went to federal court. They wouldn't get away with this shit. Court shut them down, have them sanctioned, hell, have them arrested. How fucking dare you? I mean, go look at cases that have actually won in the federal court with stuff with CPS and the stuff they get. Yes, hell, go watch the video for YouTube on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where they talk about, what was it, lying to obtain children or hiring actors. I mean, Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals went freaking nuts. They thought, what kind of communist bullshit is this? You're going to lie in a court of law? You're still supposed to, and they've been trying, and this is why SCOTUS has been so upset if you follow it, because these lower court judges are not doing that, which is why the Attorney General and Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, both came out publicly, and it's out there publicly that says these administrative law judges that are not following the Constitution, we're not going to protect you anymore. You remember that one, don't you, Darren?
Yeah, they said it, but what do they do about it?
Well, hold on. We're gonna hold them to their word now. Now here's something tangible and real that you must deal with, because we, the people, will not stand. I mean, because here's the other option. None of you are void. Once that decision comes out and we know the connection, you're now all null and void. You have no power. You have no jurisdiction. So it's like another person coming up to you. Well, I'm a police officer. Not anymore. Not after this ruling. You're all complicit in all these crimes. You're getting ready to get arrested, dude. Do you have CPS? Did your office or anything else? Do you guys stand in the courtroom? You guys are screwed. You realize all those cases with this and that, they doing that, and they're going to sit there and go, oh, crap. No, constitutional question was asked. That was a criminal act that happens in the county every day, Monday through Friday. Everything's collapsed. You guys are screwed. And the people are pissed. And they're coming for their kids. So I'm asking nicely, where's my kid? Because the next person may not be nice. Because the police no longer, and the sheriff won't have any authority. Because the whole state's complicit, and you were with them. You're co-conspirator, your whole office. You've lost all the public trust. You can't be anymore in all 50 states. What does that mean? Sort it out. That's for somebody else to sort out. The criminals need to be held criminal. Even if it's law enforcement, they're not above the law. What does that mean? We're going to have to retrain. When we're allowed, once we clean it up, because there's going to have to be a constitutional audit on everything. Why? Like Darren and I was talking about, because there's statute, codes, policies, and procedures that now must be removed because of that. You can't. You have to be 100%, which means what? Federal oversight on all your policies, procedures, statute. That means all of them have to go through the grinder now before it can go back out. And then you're going to have to reconstruct your state government as the people see fit. But right now, people don't have this, and now your state bar association's a mess. How are you going to get your judges? It's all suspended. Now, all of a sudden, there goes their revenue. There goes this on top of it, because you were operating unconstitutionally. More than likely, you're going to have to pay back all those monies to those people. Your state wasn't this. This means what? Now, Darren, this is the scary part. And I got to ask you this, because I was running through this, and I says, if all this is true, and the state was doing this, this wouldn't just affect civil court. This would affect criminal court, because if the state is not operating constitutionally and it's been doing these crimes for over 30 years, that means that those judges don't have the power to adjudicate, because the state was actively involved in a felony and a crime against the people. That means your jail cells are going to empty out. Now the money's going to go for the jails. They're empty. There's nobody to fill them. This country will change, but we're going to have to learn to live constitutionally and learn what the damn Constitution says and stand up for your own damn rights instead of, I don't know, Darren's been through this. Get in, and this is no bash to you guys, and I appreciate it because I always point you back to this show. Okay, I've got something going on with my case, and this is what happened. And I listen, I'm not a lawyer. I don't give legal advice, never do. Okay. I don't advocate. I'm not an advocate. I don't do one-on-one with your case. I educate. You're going to have to put in the work. Go. You want a past show? We've got some on Spotify. The more recent ones. You've got other shows to where, other platforms, I should say. Like I think we're on TikTok Live. We should be on Facebook Live. This show, other couple platforms here and there. But the concept is get it out there. There's ways to watch past episodes. YouTube's a great resource because they have a ton of them. And go get that education from every show, because you're going to see the progress of going from we're trying to figure this out. We're trying to figure this out to getting to where we are today. And you've got to understand that it'll go through and walk you through the structure. Like I said, not step by step, but give you the outline, the structure of how to file your federal civil case. There are resources that have blank templates that will tell you how to do it. It's available out there. Just file it like a federal criminal case. Go look at one of those and follow that structure in the complaint department. Your exhibits or examples, make sure you cross-reference them when you do it. Your what am I missing here? Cover sheets for the exhibits to explain your point of view of how you're using this and how it connects, citing it back and forth. There's a lot of, other than that, you walk through the process. And just because the federal court kicks something back doesn't mean it's a bad thing. They actually tell you how to fix it. And a lot of people get so mad. Well, the judge kicked my case and this, and this, and that. Okay, we'll refile it because they gave you everything in there in the summation of where you screwed up. Refile it. You have that option. Make the changes and do it. I don't know. Like I said, it's one of those things of this is the best place to start because you guys know your case better than anybody else. You've just got to learn to look at things with a different perspective and analytical and get out of your feelings and just state the facts. And it's going to get you so much further because, as Darren says, we got a lot of people out there that, I this, I need help, but they won't put in any damn work. If you're not going to put in any work, I'm not going to do it for you. Well, I can't afford a lawyer. Is a lawyer really your best option with what we've just put out to you guys? Well, Gunner, you're exposing yourself. No, I'm reporting the news, and this is a possibility and how it would be connected as we see it from a perspective. Once again, it's not a fact yet. These are proposed things that should it do. This should be the chain once this question's answered because it's common sense. So a lot of those things that people don't understand. And I'm trying to get that thing for the price. I'm trying to figure that crap out. Where's that at? There it is. Those pocket size, they come in a 6-pack of Declaration of Independence. And
I'm looking at ordering a bulk thing of them right now.
Yeah. There's a 6-pack. I got 3 6-packs. Cato is the publisher institute. It's a very reputable publisher. To go through there. Is that them? Let's see. Sometimes I have to figure some of this weird stuff. Let's see details. No, I don't want this. This one. Go to the damn item. Anyway. It's I was going to say, I don't think it tells. $18 for a 6-pack. Plus whatever you have with Amazon or whatever. But that's, like I said, you can get it there. You can get it from just, all sorts of places. But everybody usually does a lot of Amazon Prime anyway. So there you go. Amazon, there's your plug. There's your plug. But listen, there's a lot of resources. And this is why we point you guys to go read, educate, and then apply your case to it and sort through it. Does that apply to me? Yes, it does. Why? Because it's the same way we look at it. And this is how law enforcement's supposed to look at things. This is how the lawyers are supposed to look at things. This is how the judges and magistrates are supposed to look. A constitutional lens. Well, to understand and use the constitutional lens, you have to understand the Constitution. So you best go back and read some of this stuff, figure out how it applies, get some understanding. Now you can argue your thing in court because you understand it. Doing the paperwork, once again, is one thing. But don't forget, you have to go into a courtroom and argue your point. How are you going to argue your point if you don't understand it? Isn't that we've been telling everybody, Darren?
Sure is, man.
Paper, one thing. Getting in court, whole different ball of wax. But guys, that's what we have for this week. That's kind of an update of where we're at. I hope it's helped you guys out, get some understanding, gain some knowledge. Once again, follow me on Facebook. We've got the show page there. I've got one on TikTok. I've been spending a lot of time. Sorry, guys, if you're on Facebook, I'm not on there a lot. I try to share a lot. The thing with TikTok has just been really exploding as far as followers and everything else and that information, because once again, it's not a false hope. And once again, and I'll reiterate, this is why there was another organization that overheard this idea of what I had that I filed on and didn't know how the hell to do it. They were clueless. Once again, this is why they didn't have a case. And, once again, I'm going to run straight to SCOTUS. No, you're not. I can tell you right now, you're not. That's a lie. And that gave a lot of people hope. And I'm sorry that, once again, there's been people, hope, but if they do their research, do their due diligence, take their time, walk the dog. And this is what we're learning too. And we're learning from the mistakes of others and other things as we go along and using that to our benefit, so we don't make the same mistakes. But once again, that was the only thing they had upon examination of the 2025 case, the 2026. And once again, the plaintiff fell off. So now I've got to do a notification of the court that I'm proceeding as one person so they don't confuse it, because I did cite it and go through a description, let the court knows what's going on, because once again, they don't understand my life. But you have to articulate of what's going on. Of like, hey, we're not together. She's still dealing with an open CPS case, to the best of my knowledge. They kidnapped her kids, and this, if she wants to file, basically what it's saying, she can file on her own. So you have to notify the court of that, because the 2025 case had two plaintiffs, and moving in the 2026 there was one. So that's one thing that the court has asked us to clarify or fix. Because once again, that's just in the wording and how to read those things. Because once again, it's not you did wrong. It's saying correct this or clarify this, with some of the stuff they come back. And but keep strong. Darren, you said you got a video coming up. Let's I guess we'll close out with, I guess we have a new video. And I appreciate you guys, man, and love on one another. Build each other up, share the information, the knowledge, but get the word out. If it'll play.
They come in the dark, armed with paperwork. No warrant, no shame. They seal the record, they file the report, but there is a document the best practice of the child. The first, the fourth, the 14th, still the law of the land.
Burn the name, call it safety while they play the game. Paper shields and fake reports, silent courts and sealed support. You took the blood, you took the home. Now the hunters got a home of
We
their
are
own.
parents, survivors, advocates, and we are done asking permission to fight back.
No more running, no more play. Reload the clip and set them free. 24 CPS, full throttle, no regret. 24 CPS,
Climb every hill they built to bury us. We plant the flag where the bodies go.
Constitution in the chamber. 24 CPS, your empire's going down in
Section 1983, due process, family preservation. We know how to use it.
best interests lie. While the kids scream and the mothers die. Trafficking routes under federal flags. We map every name, we burn the bags. Section 1983 loaded.
The record will be corrected.
This is the first thing
entered into evidence. See you in federal court.
I hear the sirens in my head. I see the files they left for dead. No more running, no more bleed. We load the clip and set them free. Gunning for CPS. Full throttle, no regret. Gunning for CPS. We bring the war they never met. Gunning for CPS. Constitution in the chamber. Gunning for CPS. Your empire's going down in flames. Down in flames. You thought the families would stay quiet. You thought the trauma would stay private. We got the evidence, we got the fire. We got the truth and we never tire. Every removal is a body count. Every seal case is another mount. We got the hill with the First Amendment and we plant the flag where the bodies went. Gunning for CPS. Full throttle, no regret. Gunning for CPS. We bring the war they never met. Gunning for CPS. Constitution in the chamber. Gunning for CPS. Your empire's going down.
Yeah, I like that, man. That's a killer video, man. Definitely email that to me and I'll get that up on TikTok. That'll draw some attention. Definitely. Guys, I just want to say thanks again. Thanks for joining us once again. If it wasn't for you guys, we'd be nothing. Once again, we may be the tip of the spear, but we still need the rest of the spear to cut through on both sides. So don't forget that, guys. You are important to this. That you have a place. It's time for you to be justified. It's time for justice. It's time for this to end. It's time to return to the Constitution, and it's time for justice. It's time for the reckoning. It's not a joke. We named this for a reason. What it is. This is not, once again, a January 6th, type thing that we're talking about. We're talking about a return to the Constitution. You've been busted. You've been caught. Your hands in the cookie jar. Now you're going to be held accountable, and we're going to get to live, probably for the first time, especially our children. My children are going to possibly live in a country that truly is constitutional, and it's a whole different world, guys. It really is. It really is. Thanks again, guys. We're going to wrap things up here. Blah, 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 blah. Oh,
Other families are coming for them.
one of our other new songs and stuff like that. I believe, Darren, we've got this up on, I'm sure he'll work on a QR code or something for us that you guys can scan on the screen. If you want to go to, I believe they've got a channel that has nothing but CPS breaking news music. If you guys are interested in that, go check that out. Go check out the show on Spotify. Man, we love you guys. It's awesome. I'm a little tired. But once again, I'm only working with less than 10% of my heart. Once again, that's how bad they messed me up. And I know there's several other people that have heart problems, but they're trying to kill us. They're trying to enslave us. But now they've been caught and they can be stopped. Thanks, guys. We'll see you again next week. Don't forget to spread the word about the show. We'll see you again next week. Same time, every Sunday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we out of here. Don't forget to piss somebody off with your knowledge and education and the things you've learned this week. Have a great week, guys. You thought I forgot.
Documents forged, rights stripped away. They profit off trauma, 9 turns
kids in cages, no more broken homes. We're auditing the system, exposing every drone. From Maine to the heartland, the fire's been lit. This is for Nina, for every child they have.